And according to statistics obtained by CBS News, we know that more than 7,000 unaccompanied migrant children were sent to U.S. government overseen shelters. That is a record high for any February in the history of the unaccompanied children's program.
Now, many of us would consider that a crisis. What are your thoughts? When you watch all the articles of what's happening to those unaccompanied minors, we have created a crisis at the border. But there's a ray of hope, because Trump has set many traps, and they're about to ensnare the entire administration. You see another message of hope in this convoluted world of media that you have to weed through right now. The states are helping to set the bait, and Biden's about to walk right into those traps. 230 plus times. Just wait for it. This is news that you're going to be very heartened to hear. But before we go any further, I'm going to ask you a huge favor. First, if you haven't subscribed to our channel here, I certainly hope you will. Second, if you haven't subscribed to any of our social media feeds surrounding me now, we certainly hope you will. All the links are always below. Most importantly, and an incredible new offer, to join Restricted Republic, the platform we created for when all conservative voices were silenced. We have a bastion of hope and real news for you, unfiltered, uncensored, beholden to no one, no commercials. That is restrictedrepublic.com right now for a limited time, using discount code RESTRICTED24 for the next 2 years. You can get $2 off our monthly rate. That's going to put you underneath $6 a month. To assure you get all the news you need at 30,000 feet, not all the dreck. That's why we're not going to be talking about the Grammys today, but rather the news that matters. RestrictedRepublic.com. Right now, use Restricted24, limited time. Get on that offer. 2 years, guaranteed rate to get all your news, unfiltered and uncensored. But now let's get back to this story. They never saw the sun. Lawyers describe overcrowded conditions for children in Border Patrol custody. Now, how does that relate to states? You know, we're big state government advocates. The states must take power over the federal government. This relates directly to the Trump traps that have been set. We're going to get that there rather quickly, but first we have to show you the urgency of this argument. There's one border facility that's out in Texas, now overcrowded because the abundance of those at the border trying to get into the United States. We're not against legal immigration, never have been, but there is a process. But based on what many of the immigrants believe, Biden made them a promise. But let's delve into this article just a bit further. Some of the boys said the conditions were so overcrowded that they have taken turns sleeping on the floor. Citing interviews with nearly a dozen unaccompanied migrant children held at Customs and Border Protection holding facility in Donna, Texas. That is the facility I just showed you. Multiple kids said the exact same sentence. The only time I get up is to throw away trash or to go to the bathroom. So is that just? Is that what should be happening? Based on what they believe was a commitment from the Biden administration. You've seen the t-shirts. Biden, please let us in. Now, the states are fighting back. And again, this leads directly to the trap that's been set, is what we jovially called the states were setting bait. Well, that bait is lawsuits. Arizona's Attorney General extends lawsuits targeting deportation ban. The Arizona Attorney General in particular states and says that a 100-day pause of deportation violates agreements between DHS and Arizona. Going deeper into the article, President Biden's originally 100-day deportation ban was shot down last month by a federal judge. And that's the key to this story. So that means people that have been convicted of crimes, accused of crimes, people are being released into our community that haven't ever been tested for COVID-19. Of course, the human rights activists take a different spin on these stories. One in particular, Isis Gill, says his words are grotesque because it paints a broad picture of immigrants as criminals, which creates false fears. We don't think it's appropriate for him to use this kind of rhetoric to criminalize and demonize our people. However, and he fires back, executive orders are issued, but this president has utilized them probably to a greater extent. They should be a constitutional issue. They should be examined. Hopefully, they will get a good reception in federal court, he recently told Fox News. Well, how does this relate back to that Trump trap, or traps, because there's many that have been set. Trump's judicial appointees give Republicans hope to revoke Biden's flood of executive orders. Well, how are they going to do that? Because the states are fighting back. They're filing lawsuits against the executive orders. Look what Arizona just did on blocking any potential Biden gun control amendments that were to come through. They're now ineffective in Arizona. It's why we're such advocates for states' rights. And you need to be too, because if we're not protecting our states, then what are we doing? It's how the Constitution's supposed to work. Are your state attorney generals doing anything? If they're not, they deserve a few letters and emails to make sure that they do, because that's why they're there, to protect our rights. I know, a long since forgotten philosophy. Senate approves 200th federal judge nominated by Trump. You see, Trump set many traps. As a matter of fact, even on Wikipedia, the total number, Wikipedia, only for reference purposes, the total number of Trump's Article 3 judgeship nominees to be confirmed by the United States Senate is 234, including 3 Associate Justices of the Supreme Court of the United States, 54 United States Court of Appeal judges, 174 judges for the United States District Courts, and 3 judges for the United States Courts of International Trade. Well, what does that look like? Well, Trump set a lot of traps, because those judges are about to rule on these state cases. Trump has appointed more appeals court judges so far in his tenure than any president since Jimmy Carter. And you see the graph there. So what does it look like? How many did he appoint? Well, we'll start here on this chart. I don't know if you could see that. That's the United States Court of Appeal. So I'll zoom in a little bit so you get a good perspective about how many he appointed. And we'll continue to go down. That's the appeals court. Now let's go into the next screenshot. Wait now, I know you can barely see that one at all. And what is that? We'll just go right to the top, United States District Courts. And we can continue to thumb through this and realize the net impact of how many traps he set to the overabundance of Biden executive orders, 174 in total. How Trump administration left indelible mark on U.S. immigration courts, and how did he leave it? Because I'm only using one example today of the many lawsuits that have been filed. As U.S. President Joe Biden works to undo many of the restrictive immigration policies enacted by former President Donald Trump, he will confront one of his predecessors' indelible legacies, the legion of immigration judges Trump administration hired. The administration filled 2/3 of the immigration court's 520 lifetime positions with judges who, as a whole, have disproportionately ordered deportation. According to a Reuters analysis of more than 800,000 immigrant cases decided over the past 20 years, judges hired by Trump ordered immigrants deported in 69% of cases, compared to 58% of judges hired as far back as the administration of President Ronald Reagan. Because hundreds of thousands of immigrants have cases before the court each year, that 11% point difference translates to tens of thousands more people ordered deported each year. Appeals are rarely successful. But now let's take it out of that framework for a moment. Let's take it to the actual crisis that's occurring right now. Record number of kids are in Border Patrol custody, and shelter beds are scarce. So you wonder why backlash is rising, as migrant children in Border Patrol custody soared to 4,200, with 3,000 held past the legal limit. Some of the boys, remembering, said it was so overcrowded they had to take turns sleeping on the floor. It's heartbreaking when you read what's actually happening. Biden administration tells facilities for migrant children to reopen to pre-pandemic levels. Let's make the crisis worse. But remembering now, not so long ago, our government and the court system demanded that those migrant children be released from the detention centers because of coronavirus. But I guess now it doesn't matter, because they're reopening to pre-pandemic levels. But are you still on lockdown? Are regulations still upon you? You see, it never seems to be an equal footing. But the White House had the audacity to rip all their critics who dare call them out. And they simply called the reopening of the facility, it's the best option. No, the best option was if you believe in legal immigration to facilitate the process the right way, to not set false expectations and drive so much traffic to the border without having any of the facilities to handle it appropriately. And that's something that should never have happened. Now we can go blog after blog, but remembering the critics are harsh on this matter. This is just another last-ditch effort to try and ingrain a reckless hyper-enforcement system, but completely unmoored from legal constitutional ways of implementing policy. A transparent attempt by Trump officials to tie the Biden and Harris administration's hands and preserve Trump's grotesque immigration enforcement policy. But based on what I've shown you now, is it truly grotesque? Or is it actually grotesque what's happening to the unaccompanied minors? In our opinion, that's what needs to be dealt with first and foremost, because that's where the biggest crisis lies. So is Biden staring down a mounting crisis at the border? Well, he is. But thankfully, Trump had preset many traps. Those traps are actually constitutional protection to assure that judges are able to legally rule on executive orders spiraling out of control, creating crisis beyond the likes that we've seen in recent history. Of course, mainstream media will remain silent and complicit in everything that's occurring. You see, their only interest is in shutting down any opposing viewpoint, those who actually research and know the facts, because they don't. They unfortunately steer agenda against America, and that's why they're the ones leading the charge in all the avenues to shut down conservative voices, because they don't want any dissenting opinion. They only want agenda, but that's not what you get here. That's why I'm going to ask you again, and why we're offering the restricted 24 promotion. This is a monster promotion, by the way. 24 months, $2 off the monthly rate, on top of 14 days for free to check it out before you commit to that period. Just simply cancel before the 14 days are up. No harm, no foul. But you won't cancel, because once you hear what unfiltered, uncensored, 30,000-foot news sounds like with no commercials, there'll be no need to go anywhere else without drowning yourself out in so much information it's impossible to consume. That's not what we do at Restricted Republic. We focus on news that matters and provide it to our audience in a format where you can actually comment and enjoy a good discourse between those of like-minded individuals. So get over there now before that promotion code expires, Restricted 24. Can't wait to see you there. Can't wait to see your comments. And if you haven't subscribed to me here, I certainly hope you will. All the social media platforms that appear around me. But most importantly, Godspeed and God bless. Remembering now that there's always a light of hope. They just don't want you to see it, because they continually want you to feel defeated. And we won't allow for that. Until next time, Justus Knight, signing out.